Hello and welcome back to the Juniper JNCIA Junos video series. My name is Chris Frisch. This is the lab portion of section 1 of the JNCIA video series. This lab will be a little shorter than the other ones to come, but I really wanted to go over a few things with you before we move on. If you have a Junos device ready to practice on as you go through the video series, that's great. Let's go over a few things that need to be done to get ready to use your Junos device. Now, you might have a device from work that your boss is letting you use for this training course, or you may have purchased a used one. You might have something like an SRX, which is a very popular firewall line, or you may have something like a J-series router. After all, the J-series routers are probably your best bet at getting a Junos device on the cheap. You might also have an EX switch or something else. Regardless of which device you have, any of these devices would be a good choice for learning on. Just remember that some of the older Juniper devices run NetScreen OS and not Junos, like the SSG firewalls. And if you have one of those and you expect to use it for this training course, it's not going to work. You can do a quick Google search if you need to find out which Juniper product lines run Junos. So the first thing you're going to need, other than the Junos device, is a console cable. You don't have to have a Juniper-specific console cable. If you have a Cisco console cable laying around, that will work. Also, if your computer does not have a serial port on it, which many of the new computers and laptops don't, you may need to purchase a DB9 serial to USB cable. You can pick them up at Radio Shack or Best Buy, or just purchase one online. You can also plug your computer into the device and get an IP address, but it's going to be best to use the console port with a console cable. So go ahead and plug your console cable into the Junos device and access the console. You can use a free program like PuTTY, which is what we'll be using here. So if your device already has a configuration on it, you may already have a console username and password, so enter that information if you need to. If the device asks you for a login and you have not yet put a configuration on the device, just log in as root and it should not ask you for a password. This will bring you to the command line. Let's elevate our command line to edit mode. So type in CLI, then enter. Now type in edit and hit enter. Now we can make configuration changes. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and factory default the device to make sure we are working with a factory default configuration. So type in the command load factory-default and hit enter. Now we have loaded the factory default configuration. Now it is important to remember that before you commit the configuration and reboot the device, you have to enter a root password, so let's do that now. Otherwise, you will not be able to access the device after committing the configuration. So type in the command set system root-authentication plain-text-password and hit enter. Then it will ask you to enter a new password. Type in your new password and it will ask you to type it in again. Now we are ready to commit the default configuration. So type in the command commit and hit enter. It might take a few seconds, but when it's done, it will display the text commit complete. Now you can reboot the device. Issue the request system reboot command and wait for the system to reboot. Or you can just unplug the device and plug it back in. Now we should have a clean slate to work with. Remember that if you were accessing this device via Telnet or SSH, you will likely lose your connection because we just defaulted the configuration, which will in turn default the IP address. This is why it is best to use the console port, because we can make all the changes we want and it will not affect your connection to the device. So that's it. Now we're ready to use the device for labs and practice. Go ahead and explore the CLI a little. Just remember that whatever configuration changes you make will not be applied until you issue the commit command. You can reboot the device after making changes, but before issuing the commit command to roll back any configuration changes you made. Just make sure that if you do make some changes and then commit them, just factory reset the device again. And now we're ready to move on to other labs. Thanks for watching.